Well, I think we can start we can start now. For those of you just joining in, welcome to GATT Networks and from the Industrial Union as well to today's session. My name is Paola Clery. I am coordinating GATT Network in Argentina, and I'm also advising the Department of Education of the Industrial Union. And we're welcoming you to the webinar promoting apprenticeship as a path for youth employment in Argentina. Thanks for joining. As many of you know, GAN is a business-led private-public partnership with the goal of encouraging the link between business initiatives and on skills and employment opportunities for youth. And we do so through apprenticeship, through work readiness program, and a work-based education, work-based training. During this webinar, we'll introduce all the amazing things that we have been doing during the past year and a half, 2 years in the country, to support the youth, youth employment. And we want to thank US Dole, who has been really supported with us during this time. A few formalities before we start, sorry. I will ask you to all please remain muted during the presentations, and if any of you have any questions, you can either raise your hand through the option, the function during the Q&A, or use the chat also during the presentations, just in case you have any questions. So to start, we'll for the first time, we are introducing this video that we just are launching today, and for you, especially for you, all of you. So to start, we are going to show this video. Let me see. Wait. Sorry. Sorry. Mercedes, can you?
Yes, of course.
Sofía vive en un barrio de Buenos Aires, en Argentina. Pronto buscará su primer trabajo. Dada la situación económica del país y los efectos de la pandemia, sabe que las oportunidades no son muchas. Por eso quiere terminar primero sus estudios secundarios y así tener más herramientas. Un día, su profesora le cuenta algo que le interesa. Mientras termina la escuela, puede hacer una práctica profesionalizante. Sofía mira opciones y se decide por una empresa de la industria farmacéutica. Pronto empieza sus prácticas mientras estudia. Gana experiencia y aprende junto a su jefa y su equipo. Cuando termine la escuela, quiere buscar un trabajo de tiempo completo en este sector. Y ahora sueña con ir a la universidad y convertirse en médica. La realidad de Sofía es la de millones de jóvenes en todo el mundo. En Argentina, cerca de la mitad de la población tiene dificultades para acceder al trabajo formal. El desempleo afecta en mayor medida a quienes tienen entre 18 y 29 años, y en particular a las mujeres. Tenemos que transformar estos números hoy. Los trabajos están cambiando y también las habilidades requeridas. Por eso, es fundamental ampliar las oportunidades de capacitación. Desde GAN Argentina, trabajamos para vincular educación y empleo. Nuestro compromiso es encontrar soluciones para que las nuevas generaciones se integren al mundo del trabajo, y queremos que también sea el tuyo. Cuando los y las jóvenes tienen educación y trabajo, son libres de elegir su futuro, y la juventud es el futuro.
Sorry, did you guys see the video okay, or because it was stuck for me?
It was, Paola.
It was stuck, so we can try to show it again, or we continue?
I can try again, for sure.
Because I thought it was, yeah. For me, I don't know if it was only my screen or...
Sofía vive en un barrio de Buenos Aires, en Argentina. Pronto buscará su primer trabajo. Dada la situación económica del país y los efectos de la pandemia, sabe que las oportunidades no son muchas. Por eso quiere terminar primero sus estudios secundarios y así tener más herramientas. Un día, su profesora le cuenta algo que le interesa. Mientras termina la escuela, puede hacer una práctica profesionalizante. Sofía mira opciones y se decide por una empresa de la industria farmacéutica. Pronto empieza sus prácticas mientras estudia. Gana experiencia y aprende junto a su jefa y su equipo. Cuando termine la escuela, quiere buscar un trabajo de tiempo completo en este sector. Y ahora sueña con ir a la universidad y convertirse en médica. La realidad de Sofía es la de millones de jóvenes en todo el mundo. En Argentina, cerca de la mitad de la población tiene dificultades para acceder al trabajo formal. El desempleo afecta en mayor medida a quienes tienen entre 18 y 29 años, y en particular a las mujeres. Tenemos que transformar estos números hoy. Los trabajos están cambiando y también las habilidades requeridas. Por eso, es fundamental ampliar las oportunidades de capacitación. Desde GAN, Argentina, trabajamos para vincular educación y empleo. Nuestro compromiso es encontrar soluciones para que las nuevas generaciones se integren al mundo del trabajo, y queremos que también sea el tuyo. Cuando los y las jóvenes tienen educación y trabajo, son libres de elegir su futuro, y la juventud es el futuro.
Hope we like the video. It's part of our job to promote apprenticeships in businesses, so that's why we are really proud to be launching this today. So a bit about us. So the objective of GAN is to, as I was saying, is to empower young people and businesses in promoting and advocating for the uptake of work-based learning, including apprenticeship, as path to address the mismatch between the skills, what people's skills have, and the skills employers need. We know that it also means inequality, in wage inequalities, and as well it makes it harder for people without the right skills to get the job or to stay employed. And this also, and we know that this affects youth more than adults, especially in Latin America. So of course, so when we're talking about the COVID crisis, of course, it has been affected, and I have some numbers that I will tell you, but the numbers are before the crisis, so you can even know that it's worse now. So about 50% of children lives under poverty. As well, the informality, if we're talking about informality, 34% of workers are informality, and youth is 60%, so you can know how it affects youth worse. And 2 in 1 young people are unemployed. In adults, it's 1 to, it's half, so youth doubles the amount of adults unemployed. And of course, this affects those that really needs it the most. So 26% of the lower quintile is suffering from this, against 9% of the upper quintile, like 15% of the population. So, and of course, when we're talking about this and when we're talking about COVID inequality, the digital divide, it has been really clear to us, and this affected the way, it affected worse young people, because one, education in the country has been affected by it, and as well all apprenticeship have been affected by it, as well as young people work in those sectors that are more affected by the pandemic, so it's been really rough for young people now. So this is why it's really important, the job we are doing in the country. Sorry. So with the approach we have in Argentina is in two axes. So work-based learning and equal opportunities. So on work-based learning, what we have been doing is we had two podcasts, part of a campaign that was launched by GAN Global, which is Skilling Now. This podcast mentioned, like, promoted among businesses the apprenticeship and the importance of apprenticeship. Here we'll have Carolina talking about this later, but we are about in our 5th edition of the Trainer of Trainers, which aims at training people working in businesses who are in charge of students on the apprentices that comes into those businesses. So we have been already been trained, Carolina, correct me if I'm wrong, but more than 100, or around 100 tutors, and we are going to 5th edition that it just started. It will start this Friday. We launch every year our catalog of good practices, which aims at promoting those practices in businesses. To try to contage or try to make or see or show the best practices so other businesses can copy, can learn from mistakes, and can as well add to their current practices. We did lots of webinars, but a special webinar for crisis management and youth leadership during the COVID. And so I think this was really important in how to maintain youth engaged with their jobs, especially because they haven't been there for such a long time, like especially because they're joining or they're apprentices or they have been there for a short period. So the idea was to try to help, those tutors in how to engage the youth in their companies, in their jobs. And as well, this has been it was a really very good research on technical education in Argentina. It went through all the aspects of it, and it was a really, really interesting study. We are currently translating it into English. It was very highly demanded, it seems. We had 500 people joining that webinar when we presented, because I think such a complete study was not there in the market in Argentina. Sorry. So we just finished and we just published last week the social emotional abilities in the market, in the job market. This it was done in collaboration with CES, which I hope, I'm not seeing Jose here today, but I hope he's here. It was a really great research study on the abilities needed for the 21st century. We did some micro programs. These micro programs aimed at showing the importance of apprenticeships, and especially giving those chance to those that needed the most, and the most vulnerable youth. We also finished last year. Disappear. Yeah. So the integration of youth in vulnerable settings. This was a study done. It's an organization, CEDEL, that is working. It's really working really well, and I invite you to all to really check it out. The job that they're doing, being the nexus between companies and those vulnerable youth. And we did a study on the impact on those youth, and it was really amazing. And I guess one of the most important things from this study was that it's needed these intermediary institutions to do the linkage between both. I think that's one of the mainly highlights of this study. But I really invite you to check CEDEL out and check what they're doing. We participated on several webinars internationally. There was one on youth employment in the time of COVID, where participants from all over the countries from Argentina, we had Mercedes, who's working, she's young, she's working here in Ghana, Argentina, but also Carolina will be presenting after from the German Chamber and from the Ministry of Labor from Argentina, but it was presenters from France, from Australia, from Africa as well. Sorry. Yeah, and apprentices, and so we just as well did this study. It was also measuring the impact for youth on apprentice on a program that is AETB. It's like practices or actions for practices. It's from the Ministry of Labor from Argentina. This study specifically analyzes the impact for youth. From this program is open to all ages, but this study was actually the impact for youth. It's really high, the impact they had, the employability after, and what they like also in the same companies they were working, but also the skills that they developed for afterwards. I think this was a really good way to show how good apprentices are for young people. So what we are doing? So here we have big plans. We are finishing. We already are editing actually the study done for youth employment in Argentina is articulating public-private actors in productive clusters. We are going to tell you a little bit about it after this presentation, but it actually does analyze how rich it can be, the partnership between the public and private actors in a market. And this is analyzed by cluster. We are doing lots of training. So we are doing a training on Industry 4.0, which is a low level like training. It's like a kind of like introductory training to Industry 4.0 for technical school teachers. This was a demand by the institute, the INET, which is the National Institute for Educational Technology in Argentina, and so we are doing this with the Center of Industry X, which is a center that is based in the Industrial Union in partnership with Accenture. The training of trainers course, we are, as I mentioned before, we are already on our 5th edition. I cannot see if you guys are raising hands, but if somebody has a question, please stop me. I tend to talk a bit faster. And then we are doing a training on the link between school and employment in collaboration with Barty Foundation as well. This will be for 500 teachers, not only technical schools, but non-technical as well, which I think it can introduce on the tools that they can actually take into the classroom to bring students up to date with the labor and do that connection, which is actually what we're more focused on. So yeah, I got to the end. I know I went a little bit fast, so I will stop this presentation to see if any of you have any questions, because I'm not, you know, when I'm sharing the screen, I cannot see you guys. With the links to this report and reporting this session, yes, we will share all the links. We'll send an email after with all the links to these reports in English and in Spanish, just in case anybody wants to read, to go through them. Some of them, they are on translation, but yeah, we'll send all the links. I don't see any of the hands up, but does anybody has a question? Okay, it seems or either I wasn't really clear or nobody understood for how fast I was talking. So the next speaker is Alejandro Romero. He's a political scientist from the University of Buenos Aires and has a graduate degree in local development and social economy from Flaxo. And he's a consultant in political analysis, and he will be introducing a bit of, we are going to be launching this study in a few weeks. But I think that it will be good, he can tell us his experience, because I think this study will show us why GAN is important and why the job we are doing is important, and the articulation between the private sector and the public sector is really important. So he will be introducing the youth employment in Argentina and articulating public-private actors in productive clusters.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you, Paola. I will share my presentation. Can you see it here? Yes? Okay. Well, first of all, I want to thank GAN for the, sorry. I'm having some issue here. Yes, okay. Excuse me. I was saying I want to thank GAN for the invitation and everyone for your time here at the webinar. I'm going to present this paper Paola was talking about, and the main purpose of the study was to map the situation of youth employment in our country in order to understand how it is promoted in the public-private agenda along the creation of employability conditions. As the situation was a little bit already exposed by Paola of the problems young people are having today to get a job, to stay in a job, I just want to add that when the global transformation regarding technology and continuous innovation within the industrial productive processes is not followed by appropriate labor policies, fostering inequity is what we can expect as a result. So how we try to get some answers with the study. We used official economic statistics to identify the main value chains in terms of employment creation, participation in international markets, institutional profile, and technological development. And within these value chains, we selected 6 clusters to research. These clusters are the ones you can see marked on the map. So we have one for each of the main Argentinian regions, and an extra one for the most productive, that is the Pampean region. In order to get an insight of the specific topic of youth employment, we also undertook more than 30 interviews with key informants from companies, chambers, and institutions. So we have, in green, you can see 3 agricultural-based clusters. That is the sugar industry in the northwest, the forestry cluster in the northeast, and the vine culture cluster, which is mainly dedicated to wine production, in the Cuyo region in the Midwest. And then in blue, we have 3 technology-based clusters, software and biotechnological in the Pampean region, and the electronical complex in the south of Patagonia. What we can say as a main result from the study, it is that the progress made in competitive development strategies like clusters themselves and their promotion is not followed yet by a specific strategy to develop youth employment within them as a topic that could be naturally included into their agenda. And we say, and we consider it should be included into their agenda. We found that the promotion of youth employment, training activities, and the creation of employability conditions don't have, in general, an organized and institutional approach, although there are experiences towards towards it, towards getting to a place like this. On the other hand, this also means that there is an existing and appropriate environment that gives the opportunity for the private sector and public agencies to carry out together youth employment activities with the benefit of recruiting, training, promoting, and probably certifying their own workers in a strategy, in a joint strategy. So we summarized our results into these 4 main elements that you can see in the slide, that we consider they favor youth employment. I think to highlight first is that common to all cases, Argentina has a nationwide policy to promote first job programs. The most prominent of these is the job placement program from the National Ministry of Employment. There's also international public policies very similar to this one, where usually the state grants part of the new employee's wage as a subsidy to favor the entrance or the of this trainee or new worker. So going to the entrepreneurship sphere, we can say this aspect is more present in technology-based clusters because it is related to innovation, to highly qualified human resources, to the link with universities. So this encourages the creation of new products and organizations that will be further included in the cluster, and they will expand it. An example here is the university spin-off model we can find in the biotechnological cluster, where the public university, the National Scientific Council, and the Creative Technopark work together for the incubation of new high-tech companies and businesses. Here was born the first university spin-off in Argentina, in Argentina's history, I mean. There is a company called Celtec, where a scientific lab research made in animal cells evolved into a firm that produces and exports medical inputs for human health. Another common entrepreneurship initiative we can find in clusters is the self-employment promotion, where companies put up programs to develop a network of goods and services suppliers connected with the activity, with their economic activity. For example, in the forestry cluster, we have woodwork and furniture businesses born around the big sawmills that they are the main activity of the cluster. Or in the electronical cluster in the south, where a big company like New Sun has a program that helps to create small ventures, mainly individually or family, in big cities, and they train them to repair the mobile phones, the TVs, the laptops, and all kind of appliances that they produce massively in the southern factories. We like this experience because they use a social approach as they focus on promoting excluded groups of the labor market, like young under 25 years old people, excluded minorities like transsexuals and gender violence victims, and all of them coming from economical poor or less favored sectors. If we look at professional training, here we focused in new labor competencies. And we talk here about like hard skills that are directly related to a task or to a duty of a job, but also what is called soft or transversal competencies. Here We talk about teamwork, communication skills, conflict resolution capabilities, critical thinking, autonomy, which are nowadays are very looked for by companies at the time of recruiting. Here we want to highlight that Argentina has an emerging national system for ongoing training and competencies certification, where the government, the education institutions, unions, and chambers, they establish together a series of technical profiles and their study programs in different economic fields, so they can evaluate abilities and knowledge required to be a certified worker. This is already underway in the forestry cluster, where firms, generally the big firms, the big ones, they manage the certification of their workers as an agreed basis between them. Companies here are in the need of training workers in new abilities because the mechanization and the introduction of technology is today the way to be competitive. So as this is common in primary-based clusters, it shows us that apprenticeship, especially in the young people, is a way of gaining competitiveness. Regarding corporate social responsibility, that's CSR, which is usually bounded to local development, we can say that these kind of policies are more frequent in less favored economic regions. For example, in the vine culture cluster, 2 of the interviewed companies, they certify fair trade, which is an international standard that guarantees fair working conditions with focus on quality employment for young people, along ecosystem sustainability and the care for biodiversity in agricultural practices. Wineries also certify organic production and other quality standards, which all of these stamps are looked for by international buyers and final consumers. Another example, quite clear, of how CSR has a successful impact on the community, has place in the sugar cluster, where the biggest company there, it's called Ledesma, has a training program to reduce the digital gap and develop skills and abilities for the present labor market. And they're also aiming here, like in most of the primary-based clusters, in reducing the rural uprooting, because what's happening is that as they lack opportunities, young people are migrating from rural sectors to big cities. This experience of Ledesma arises like as a substantial experience to create employability conditions in young local people. And here they give open training courses annually, and I think if I'm not wrong, like 900 people were in the course last year, and they focus in innovation and technology and making alliances with local technical schools to give the courses. At last, and I think one of the most significant elements for us today is the workplace training, because training and formation inside the companies has shown to have a great impact on youth employment. Here, firms are able to train their employees or future employees in the skills, abilities, and soft capacities they are looking for in their production process. Guided practices with tutors or mentors has proved to get better effects on the apprenticeship. We can highlight a very dynamic process here in the Córdoba software cluster, where the programs for workplace training, they are cluster managed from the institution, and they are designed as a joint strategy, introducing multiple initiatives to stimulate young students and graduates employment. These programs are first job programs, first steps, entrepreneurships, and of course, young professional programs that are common to their. We can see them in most of the clusters we researched. They also, in Córdoba, they also fund undergraduate or postgraduate careers for the most prominent profiles, and they give benefits like working hours reductions, which is very looked for in young people at the time of working and studying. At last, we would like to speak of the Southern Electronical Cluster, where one of the local governments and the universities, the local universities, are currently setting up the German dual system through an agreement with the German-Argentine Chamber of Industry and Commerce that I think Carolina, next speaker, is from there, and we can link this quite quickly, because this system has 4 decades already of experience in Argentina, and it's well known for its good results when we talk about simultaneously work and develop knowledge, with the benefit of a quick insertion for the young men or women in the program, and they can get their ongoing professional training and the opportunity of getting a diploma useful here in Argentina and abroad, especially in Germany. I think, I don't know if I went too fast, but I think we went
Alejandro, they're asking you if the national job placement programs you refer are PIL, ETP, and Empalme.
Yeah, PIL is Programa de Inserción Laboral. That's one of the first job type of programs. We can translate it as job placement program. But then there are other first job programs that can be provincial, state funded, like First Step, that it's used in the biotechnological cluster, and there are different provinces have different programs, and the names are quite similar: First Step, First Job, Job Placement, Entrepreneurship, and training program. But usually the common aspect is that they are linked with the companies to promote the entrance of the worker, and they grant the subsidy. They grant a part of the wage. Usually, I think it's 30 to 50% of the wage to promote this hiring. I don't know if it's another question. I'm not seeing the.
Is there any other question for Alejandro? Okay, as I mentioned, thank you, Alejandro, for your presentation. It was really great. So before I'm introducing to the next speaker, I just want to say that during the first time of GAN, we were focusing on analyzing the impact of apprenticeship and work-based training for youth. And now we are moving towards how we can get other actors to participate in this. And that's why this study was really important to highlight how these actors, these different actors, contributes to make a policy which has a real impact. And our next speaker, which she is Carolina Biasiotti. I hope I pronounced it well. She's the coordinator of the Department of Professional Formation from the German Chamber of Commerce, but she's also a former student of the dual system. And I think that she can give us both the content and the training that we have been doing for 5th edition, and it's really demanded. And also she can tell us about her experience on when she was an intern, when she was apprentice through this system. So Carolina, I give you the space.
Perfect. Thank you, Paola. Good morning. Hi, everybody. My name is Carolina. I did the dual system with the Chamber. And on behalf today of the German-Argentine Chamber of Industry and Commerce, for me and for us, it's a pleasure to be here with you. So thank you very much for the invitation. And also, it's a pleasure to continue working in cooperation with the Global Apprenticeship Network since last year with this 5th edition of the AdaShine. The GAN and the Chamber are both organizations that have been the same goal of linking education and employment from the point of view of linking education and employment. And in this sense, from the Department of Vocational Education Training of the Chamber, to which I belong, we coordinate this training of the trainers. In German, we speak about the Ausbildung der Ausbilder. That's why the acronym AdaShine, aimed to human resources managers, internship coordinators, also teachers, and of course, people who are interested in the vocational education training, as well as our trainers of the German-Argentine dual training system. The training is a German training, is offered in Germany, is highly recognized, and is based on the German dual system. And the Chamber, since a few years ago, has been getting the chance in Argentina to also offer the certification, of course, according to the German guidelines. The aim of the course, first of all, is to provide the trainers with not only working tools, but also with pedagogical tools, which are very necessary to follow the way and the first steps of their young professionals successfully. The content is based on the reality of the workplace, of the work world, and that's why we try to share practical cases. We talk about soft skills, the implementation, the importance of implementation of a training plan to guide the first steps of the trainees, about feedback, types of learning, among others, and about, of course, the dual training system as an example of best practice. Finally, it is very important for us to be partners in this initiative with the Global Apprenticeship Network. We really believe that it's essential to promote our commitment to vocational education training under the motto, education for work, and also learning by doing. This is the motto of the dual system also, that we have been working on for many years in order to provide a response to the current challenges in the labor market and the shortage of qualified personnel. So we can say this year was very special because of the pandemic, and due to the pandemic, we had the possibility to digitize this course, and we could say that as a result of the quarantine, today not only can interested people in Buenos Aires participate in the training, but also people from anywhere, I don't know, in the country, who wants to do the training to have this access to being trained in the other shine. So that's is rewarding. That was amazing, and that's why it's a pleasure for us. And really, we are very grateful on behalf of the chamber to work together with the GAN, to continue working with the GAN, and to make it possible to train professionals all over our country. We really celebrate this alliance, and we hope to continue working together in the training of the trainers, that we believe that really it play a very important role in the development of our future leaders. So that's, for me, is the most important. When we train trainers who has contact with another trainees, which are our future, I think, and from my own experience, I think that it's very important that mentors are prepared to train apprentices. It is not an easy job. It's a big responsibility. It's a big challenge. And it means a lot to apprentices to be guided in the first professional steps where they are still deciding about their professional future. So that's why I think it's a big responsibility, and well, that it could be my opinion. And on behalf of the chamber, it's for us a very great job that we are doing. So I don't know if you have any questions, or I would like also to open the dialogue if there are any other participants here who would like to share their experience, or I don't know if anyone has any questions. I will be happy to answer them. Well,
I see.
I don't.
Caro, I see some of our our former taught participants, like for example Daniel Cano. Te estoy viendo que es uno de los participantes de uno de los últimos taught. Por ahí nos puede contar su experiencia. No se te escucha.
Esto de estar muteado. Disculpen que hable en español, soy un poco duro en el inglés, los he estado entendiendo lo que decían, pero el hablar me cuesta. Me presento, mi nombre es Daniel Cano, yo soy vicepresidente de la Unión Industrial de San Juan, estoy participando del curso de formador de formadores de la AHK, estoy fascinado con él, me encanta. Estoy convencido que lo vamos a poder llevar perfectamente a la práctica en poco tiempo. Les comento, estamos trabajando muy de cerca desde la Unión Industrial de San Juan con el gobierno de acá de la provincia. Estamos manteniendo reuniones con el Ministerio de Educación para implementar lo de las prácticas profesionalizantes. Estamos muy avanzados. En estos días tuvimos también con una escuela secundaria que depende de la universidad, la Escuela Industrial de San Juan, que depende de la Universidad Nacional de San Juan. Y hemos avanzado ya y tenemos una empresa donde están en el proceso de selección de los chicos, de técnicos electromecánicos, para trabajar, hacer su práctica profesionalizante en una empresa química. Y estamos trabajando muy fuertemente junto con las autoridades, como les decía, del Ministerio de Educación Provincial, para transferir estos conocimientos que estamos aprendiendo realmente muy bien en este curso a la práctica concreta de implementar las prácticas profesionalizantes en San Juan. Incluso a pesar de la pandemia, del COVID, la idea es que en San Juan no hay clases presenciales por el momento debido al estatus sanitario, pero hemos avanzado muy fuertemente en poder implementar que los chicos sí hagan las prácticas profesionalizantes en empresas que tengan el protocolo sanitario aprobado por las autoridades, que en el caso de la industria en San Juan está trabajando la totalidad. No hay empresas paradas en este momento industriales. Entonces, sí hay una demanda muy fuerte de poder hacer esto. Entonces, realmente este programa de la AHK es muy bueno, las clases son realmente prácticas, hay todo un trabajo de volcar a la práctica muy interesante, y esto nos está siendo muy útil para poder volcarlo a un programa concreto y real de prácticas profesionalizantes acá en San Juan. Estamos trabajando con las autoridades del INET, muy cercanos, o sea, con muy buen nivel de diálogo, para, como les decía, trabajar en esto y implementar ya lo que son procesos de formación profesional, o sea, de personas que hayan terminado sus estudios secundarios o de bachillerato y puedan hacer carreras profesionales de un año. Ya estamos trabajando con los programas de mecánico industrial, electricista industrial y programador de software, con la idea de arrancar en estas 3 especialidades en marzo del año que viene. Estamos muy entusiasmados, ahí realmente se está conformando en San Juan, que va a salir en estos días, en esta semana, nos han dicho, ya un consejo consultivo permanente del Ministerio de Educación de San Juan para que la industria de acá de San Juan pueda participar en la confección de los contenidos curriculares de las carreras técnicas, o sea, tanto de las que vienen del INET, en lo que es formación profesional, como las tecnicaturas secundarias, ¿no? Eso nos comunicaron ayer, que estaban ya redactando lo último del borrador. Estamos, bueno, un poco vertiendo estos conceptos que estamos aprendiendo en este curso, que están muy buenos, a eso, que nos va a permitir, a través de este consejo consultivo, empezar a trabajar fuertemente ya en los contenidos curriculares de las materias para tener un personal más cercano a las necesidades de la industria. Espero que les haya interesado lo que les comenté.
Gracias, Daniel. Thank you very much. I think it's really the importance of the job, like that, to get it into the provinces and to get it like really federal throughout Argentina. And the COVID is something it allows us, it was to reach places that we haven't been reaching before. I don't know if somebody else wants to make any comments, because I see some really interesting that help us, like Ricardo. He did actually, Ricardo de Chisi, he did a study of the technical schools in Argentina, and I think it was a really great study. Sorry that I am calling up on you, Ricardo, but maybe you can tell us a little bit about it.
Yo en el mismo caso que Daniel, no, digamos, entiendo el inglés, pero no lo hablo fluidamente, así que prefiero conversar en castellano. Bueno, les comento brevemente cuál fue el desarrollo de mi trabajo en relación a GAM y la UIA. Digamos, bueno, básicamente lo que yo desarrollé fue un relevamiento de la educación técnico-profesional en Argentina, ¿no? Es un estudio que tiene fuertemente un propósito más cuantitativo. Lo que quiso fue demostrar y poner luz, visibilizar la educación técnico-profesional en Argentina como modalidad, es decir, como una modalidad integrada, que no es solamente las escuelas técnicas, si bien las escuelas técnicas son el factor dominante que explica el conjunto de la modalidad. Nosotros tenemos en la Argentina 5.000 instituciones de educación técnico-profesional, entre escuelas técnicas a nivel secundario, institutos técnicos superiores y centros de formación profesional, justamente, que dan cuenta de una diversidad desde el punto de vista formativo, de los distintos públicos que atiende la educación técnico-profesional. Prácticamente en el año 2019, 1.200.000 estudiantes tenían algún tipo de vínculo con la educación técnico-profesional, eran parte de algún programa formativo, ya sea como adolescentes en la educación técnica secundaria o en la educación técnica superior como en forma posobligatoria, posecundaria, o en los centros de formación profesional. La característica central que como planteaba recién Daniel, en caso de la formación profesional, para nosotros es un ámbito de la modalidad que tiene mucha centralidad en este momento, es parte de la agenda pública de discusión en la Argentina. digamos, cómo lograr una mayor cobertura de la formación profesional justamente en un contexto donde el 50% de la población económicamente activa en Argentina no tiene calificación profesional y tiene un nivel de escolaridad no obligatorio, el nivel primario, es decir, el segundo nivel, digamos, o el primer nivel en relación a los niveles obligatorios. Digamos, en un contexto de este tipo, con ese perfil, con nuestra población económicamente activa, de trabajadores y trabajadoras, entendemos que, y esta es la agenda, los ejes de discusión en este momento, obturan cualquier proceso de integración progresiva en la matriz productiva, una matriz productiva más innovadora en relación al conocimiento tecnológico y de mayor densidad de conocimiento tecnológico. Es como un obturador, justamente este nivel de escolaridad y esta calificación profesional, y entendemos que justamente para el segmento de jóvenes y adultos, en formación corta y escolaridad secundaria. Digamos, es lo que se viene discutiendo a nivel federal con respecto a la modalidad de educación técnico-profesional. Hay otra cuestión importante con respecto a la educación técnica secundaria, que también es parte de esta misma agenda y refleja mucho el estudio que hicimos nosotros, que tiene que ver con los principios de la integralidad. Digamos, cada vez más se está pensando en Argentina la educación técnico-profesional como sistema, digamos, un sistema más articulado entre estos tres ámbitos, ¿no? Justamente ¿para qué? Para llegar a mayores coberturas y para que la educación técnico-profesional en realidad sea una opción no de segunda, sino de primera en términos de la progresión de la calificación profesional, ¿no? Ya sea articulando la educación técnica secundaria con la educación técnica superior, y la educación técnica secundaria y superior con la formación profesional continua. Que aquí es otro de los problemas que tenemos en Argentina. La formación profesional continua es un área de vacancia en Argentina. No tenemos un sistema consolidado alrededor de la formación continua a lo largo de la vida activa de los trabajadores y trabajadoras. Y la educación técnico profesional en realidad debería, como es una tendencia más a nivel internacional y regional, que los sistemas de formación para el trabajo se constituyen más como formación profesional continua y no solo como formación para el trabajo de carácter inicial. Esto es un desafío enorme que tiene la educación técnico profesional en nuestro país y bueno, creo que ya al menos hay una agenda pública de discusión alrededor de esto. La otra cuestión que para nosotros también es relevante y lo define también el trabajo, tiene que ver de cómo se construyen las necesidades sociales de formación en la Argentina. Este proceso es un proceso, digamos, trunco en términos del proceso histórico. Si bien hay cierto tipo de institucionalidad ya construida a partir de nuestros marcos regulatorios que institucionalizan la educación técnico profesional, uno de ellos es el CONETIP, es un Consejo Nacional de Educación, Trabajo y Producción, que justamente es el ámbito multiactoral donde participan aquellos actores que definen las necesidades sociales de formación. Digamos, no es solamente la mirada educativa que debe justamente permear en este consejo, sino lo que se privilegia, lo que se prioriza es la mirada justamente de las organizaciones de representantes del trabajo, las organizaciones sindicales, las organizaciones empresarias y el mundo de la ciencia y la tecnología. Digamos, producto de ese diálogo social, en realidad es donde se construye la salida de vacancia y la perspectiva de las necesidades sociales de formación en nuestro país. Por supuesto que lo que falta para institucionalizar ese proceso es que en cada provincia, como parte de lo que habló Daniel, en cada provincia debe haber también un consejo de estas características de educación, trabajo y producción, justamente para que ocurra y se despliegue a nivel federal en Argentina este dispositivo. La otra cuestión es la organización más interinstitucional. En Argentina muchas veces tenemos grandes problemas de coordinación de las carteras de gobierno alrededor de la formación para el trabajo. Hay muchos esfuerzos dispersos y programas muy fragmentados con respecto a un mismo público o a un mismo propósito. Esto es algo que tenemos que ir resolviendo en Argentina desde el punto de vista de algo más interinstitucional, entre el Ministerio del Trabajo, el Ministerio de Educación, el Ministerio de Producción y el de Ciencia y Tecnología y Desarrollo Social, justamente teniendo en cuenta que atendemos los mismos sujetos y los mismos problemas con respecto a la formación para el trabajo. Ahí me parece que también queda una vacancia con respecto a cómo resolver desde el punto de vista de las políticas públicas esta cuestión. Sobre todo en el caso, vuelvo al caso de la formación profesional, que justamente ese es el ámbito y el segmento más desvalorizado en Argentina y menos jerarquizado, ¿no? Me parece que un impulso de valorización de ese ámbito da cuenta que justamente tenemos que mejorar estas articulaciones interinstitucionales. Por último, el trabajo pone énfasis en la cuestión de enfatiza y releva y señala el tema de las prácticas profesionalizantes, que en realidad, desde la Ley de Educación Técnico Profesional a esta parte, para nosotros la Ley de Educación Técnico Profesional es como un hito, digamos, de constitución de la institucionalidad de la educación técnico profesional, justamente lo que da cuenta a esas prácticas profesionalizantes, y hay mucho acuerdo federal alrededor de esa noción, que justamente es como la aproximación más idiosincrática en el caso argentino de pensar articulaciones más cercanas a lo que es un sistema dual. Si bien no es un sistema dual, digamos, está lejos de serlo, pero entendemos que desde el punto de vista de la adecuación, en términos de pensar esta lógica de alternancia entre el mundo educativo y el mundo del trabajo, entendemos que es una buena interfaz y un buen avance desde el punto de vista de esa institucionalización, al punto tal que todos los planes de estudio en Argentina en este momento, de educación técnica secundaria y superior, tienen como campo de formación obligatoria la práctica profesionalizante, lo cual esto para nosotros es, la verdad que jerarquiza mucho la educación técnica profesional, en términos del diálogo, más allá de que sea un campo de formación obligatorio, en términos del diálogo de esa institucionalidad de la educación técnico profesional con el sistema y el contexto socioproductivo, que en realidad es lo de crear en el caso argentino. Nos parece que es una buena interfaz, es una buena línea, digamos, de desarrollo del punto de vista que articula la formación como procesos de inserción prematura al mundo del trabajo, ¿no? En términos de su formación. Lo que hace el estudio justamente... ¿Sí? ¿Cómo?
Muchísimas gracias, Ricardo. Gracias por la breve presentación del estudio. Quiero darle a la última presión, quería dejar, antes de continuar con el debate, quisiera dejar a nuestro último presentador, o sea, al último panelista hoy, que además, Daniel Funes de Rioja, que bueno, además de ser abogado y doctor en Ciencias Sociales de la UBA, la verdad es que él fue como el campeón, o el campeón de GAN en Argentina, es, digamos, el que le trajo vida a GAN acá en Argentina, entonces quisiera pedirle que por favor nos cuente, dejarle un poco el piso. Thank you very much for everybody. Now I will say the same thing in English, but I want to introduce to the next presenter, which is Daniel Funes de Rioja, that besides being a lawyer and doctor in social scientist, and also the president of the Department of the Social Policy of the Industrial Union. He's the champion of GAN in Argentina. He was the one who originally thought about bringing this chapter into the country. So Daniel, can you?
Thank you, Paula. Thanks a lot. Good morning or good afternoon, everybody. I don't know what can I do referring the time. But anyway, I'm not the champion. I was, you know, the story of GAN was the story of the commitment of the business community involved at the G20 process. Well, I remember the first meeting I went to Washington in 2010 because I was at the time the executive vice president of the International Organization of Employers, or the president, I don't remember, and the employers vice president of the ILO governing body, the International Labour Organization. And we decided at the level of the IOE that a chapter regarding labor relations had to be built up at the G20 process in the new G20 process after the financial crisis in 2008. But since the beginning of that process, we kept on mind that we needed not to just to discuss and to make proposals, if not to have concrete outcome, a concrete outcome. And then we started to discuss among us, among the employer or the business community, how to do it and how to deal with it. And that's the idea was the key question for many developing countries. The big challenge is to link business and education. Because first, it's a testimony of social dialogue. In order to do so, you need to create the conditions to do so with the workers and the representatives, with the states, with the political context in general, but also with the specialists regarding that issue. But looking at one main question, to create the conditions for employability, because technological changes imply automatically the need of having people prepared to do so. And probably in the field of small enterprise, it's clear that you need to prepare not only the workers, but also the so-called employers to the new technologies and so on. Then it was something that could be challenging for everybody. And we saw it with a vision of social responsibility, with the perspective of cover a gap, and creating the link between education and business. And also that in order to make it happen, we needed, and that was the real challenge, to create a body. And the body was the Global Apprenticeship Network. And it was developed first with some countries with special problems of employment, crisis of employment, a lot of informality and jobless. And that we saw it as not a circumstantial problem, if not as a structural challenge for those countries. And that we did it with Spain and some other countries with the same profile, but also with the countries that were the titular of the G20 for that year. Then we started to work along these years jointly with the G20, mainly with the B20 inside the G20. But at the moment, the G20 opened their eyes and say, hey, we are interested on knowing what is it. And our response was, we need to be prepared for the technological changes. We need to be prepared in order, there is no possibility of development without inclusion, social inclusion. And more than that, even regarding the 2008 crisis, political stability depends too much, and we are showing that, on the conditions, economical and social conditions. Then, if you need to give an opportunity to the people, is not just through subsidies, could be a part of it, but through education. And that's the reason by which we consolidate that process that finally took form of an association with authorities and with a program and a budget and so on. And we started at the moment to decide how to deal with Latin America. Because in particular, there were some good experiences in Europe and in Asia regarding GAN. Not too many in Africa for different reasons. But that was clear that we also needed to have some experience in Latin America. And taking into account that my position at that time at the IOE as president of the International Organization of Employers, I made my hand up and say Argentina first, and not America first, Argentina first, in that case, for that purpose. That's the reason by which in 2015, we decided in 3 months to give some structure to this. But with a difference. Looking at the experience of the other countries, what I saw, that's my perception. I am a lawyer and with a political eye, but not an expert on that. We need to involve also the small enterprises through the chambers. And taking into account that the experience in Unión Industrial Argentina is clear, there are very active chambers. We got all the efforts in order to have the relevance around the table in order to make the proposal. We want to have a GAN with companies, but also with chambers that represent a small enterprises that couldn't afford the challenge of education for employability alone. That's clear that they need the support of the state and certainly the induction or the participation or of something like a GAN. And we started to do so. And later on, we started with the regions. And what I said to Paula yesterday is, and now taking into account that we will have our industrial conference that we take place yearly, I want to, and this year will be a real federal conference. I want to involve the regions also with the GAN process. The process of GAN is very relevant. Certainly, I have something to say related to how did it born, but the question is how the GAN could be developed in the future, consolidated, because first, there is a real need in our country. Employability and technical support in order to do so is absolutely necessary if we want to run for being a developed country. Developed country imply industrial and technological inclusion and social inclusion jointly with that. That's the reason by which we starting doing so, and we are facing the future. And let me tell you, in order to conclude my remarks, because the question is not what did happen. The story is good just to justify the present, but the real challenge is the future. And the future is in your hands, not in my hands. And that future is, and let me tell you that, frankly speaking, is not just because it's a political challenge, it's a real challenge. Education is at the heart of the development of a country, and it's at the heart of the development of a company. Because if there is not a link, and I add with this social dialogue, and this link is to work together, workers and employers, with the educational system in order to create and to respond to the demand, the technological demand. That's the key for that is GAN in our case. And we need to use it. My last comment that is not, we need as country to define which will be the model, the pattern for the apprenticeship. You know, I'm the chairman of the committee, the industrial committee, German Argentinian, or Argentinian German. And I learn a lot, but I'm not a teacher of that. But I admire the dual system, and also there are good experiences in our own country. And I think that GAN could be the engine in order to show up that there are good experiences, and that you are the testimony of that. And what I invite you is certainly to continue with the same level of participation and enthusiasm, and your companies and your chambers, because be optimistic for the future imply to respond to these challenges. And I am absolutely sure that you, with the team and the leadership of Paula, you will be in conditions to do so. Count on me and everything that could be necessary, if necessary, is through the UEA or the chambers or whatever, to lobby on behalf of that. But clearly take into account that is your testimony, because there are their realities. You need to touch realities, not just utopias. And letting aside utopias, try to make it happen. I'm absolutely sure that you are able to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel. Here there is a question for you. Does GAN, does GAN, for the speakers, in this case, you see the relevance and need for philanthropic funds in supporting the advancements of apprenticeship in Argentina? For example, they're mentioning the pre-apprenticeship program, I think it's Europe, for most vulnerable youth to have equal opportunities.
Well, I am absolutely convinced. Argentina has some difference for good and bad, but someone that are for good is certainly natural resources and human resources, and it couldn't be forget that, because let me give you just an example that we discussed, and we are involved at the Union Industrial on all the question of the emergency, and we, as the head of the food industry chamber, I had the responsibility to build up the protocols and all the way in which the essential activities develop. And looking at the pharma, if you look at the pharma, well, we are practically, and when Hugo Sigman came to the Union Industrial to give a speech related to the development of the new vaccine, he mentioned not only the expert, the Argentine expert that are working with him, he also mentioned the others that are around all the groups, the international group that are trying to develop the vaccine. But if you go to the technology, THT companies, immediately you know that in not more than 10 years, we developed a group of companies and a group of developers, unicorns and so on, and we can do it. I think that we need to let aside the frustration, because the key question is to be serious, to be transparent, in order to have support. Certainly, we need to be accountable to create the condition for that. And Paula, I think that there are, and probably after the crisis, the question will be not only recover the same level that before the crisis, because we were in another crisis. Then the challenge is to growth, invest, to be competitive, to obtain productivity. And for doing so, you need engines, you need technology, but also you need people. You cannot do it without both things. And that's the reason by which I think that the perception of the investors is, and those, the donors, and all the actions in corporate social responsibility that could be linked to the contributions to these activities is, do I have a real evidence that something is running well? First. Second, is doing it properly? Three, they are with the resilience that you need in order to be adapted to the new circumstances of the countries and technologies. And four, are you accountable? If all these things, the answer is yes, I'm sure that what we need to do is to work together in order to give the GAN the visibility need in order to increase its participation and increase the outcome in terms of population, companies, and workers covered by this type of program. And certainly using the experience, the good practices. Each one of you have a lot to give in order not to make mistakes and to solve the problems that prima facie appear as very difficult to solve. And that's the reason by which I think that this cooperative way in which you are working in GAN, sharing experiences and projecting the challenges is something that will stimulate other participation, more commitment, and certainly better results.
Thank you very much, Daniel, for your presentation. Is there any other question for Daniel? I think not. So just I wanna take a few words that Daniel was mentioning about this, about joining forces all together, and this is very important in this moment to contribute. We should all contribute for a better, for the better inclusion of youth in the job market. And I think that from GAN, we are trying at least to promote this. And some of the programs that we are doing is actually focused on this. And one of, I wanted to ask maybe Agustin to tell us a few words on what we are planning to do. Agustin is from Barke Foundation. And so we are trying to connect and to expand to teachers. We are not normally in the, not including or not bringing their classrooms or the businesses into the classrooms to do it. So we are encouraging them. So I wanted him to tell us from his words, a few words. Can you, thank you, Agustin, sorry for just calling up on you.
No, great, and thank you very much for this invitation and for the possibility of working together. We are almost there launching a program between GAN, the Industrial Union, and the Barke Foundation, and we are very pleased because this connection is open a new world of opportunities, and we truly believe in the connection between the education and the work sector, the workforce in general. Let me share three short ideas that are related to the program, very, very briefly. First, we are an organization that truly believes that every child deserves a great teacher. So we work every day to support teachers in order that every child has a great teacher in the classroom. And for that, the first thing we do is we celebrate teachers. We award every year the Global Teacher Prize, kind of a Nobel for teachers. And the first question I drop you here today is, who was your best teacher? And think about that, reflect on who was the teacher that inspired you to become a leader in the different sectors that you are. And let's think how we can keep celebrating teachers. Secondly, that's our organization, what we do every day. Here and together with GAN and the Industrial Union, we are launching this program on how to support teachers to plan good apprenticeship programs for the students, but how they could plan that in order to make it a pedagogical content and some real experiences that the kids need, that student needs to connect with the work, but also to keep learning on that process. And with the program that we are going to train teachers and to connect them with the private sector and to help them to make those planifications, what we look is to develop leadership on teachers, to be teachers who will start leading this process and becoming more involved. Not only companies coming to schools or opening apprenticeship opportunities, but also teachers looking for that. And what we want to develop with the program is leadership skills that go beyond the content, beyond the pedagogical content that we are teaching in the classrooms. It's helping teachers to become leaders. And that is part of the program. And lastly, the program will not also empower teachers with tools and with the connections, but will make this bridge that also Daniel was commenting before, this bridge between the private sector, the industries, the different companies, and the schools, to help them connect and to be something that goes together, that they're not two separate worlds, because we truly believe that education needs a huge transformation, and that is not happening alone in the school. It's a change that we need to bring all together. We need to support schools and we need to connect schools. So this program, we are very confident that we will give some of these answers that are needed, because it's not something that we're going to do alone. We are preparing the program together with GAN and the Industrial Union, and we are going to involve many companies of Argentina to be part of the program. So hopefully at the end of the program, when we evaluate it, we are going to evaluate not only our work, but what we're going to plan and do together. Thank you for the opportunity, and we look forward to the kickoff that is coming soon.
Thank you, and as well, we are inviting the companies, members, and from the GAN and Industrial Union that wants to join and help and give this expertise to teachers to contact us and also to join us in this endeavor. And lastly, and I think it has to do a bit with the question that was asked before, maybe I would ask just a few comments from Jose Maria and Iago, which we have done a study, but particularly their organization, to be honest, they have been working a lot on being this nexus between vulnerable youth and the companies. So I want him to do the last comment, and if anybody has any questions, to please do it. And thank you very much, Jose.
Buenos días, buenas tardes a todos y todas. Lo mío será breve a esta altura ya de la reunión. Lo bueno y breve es importante. Quiero comentarles sobre la publicación que hemos hecho que ha hecho GAN Argentina con apoyo de Fundación CES. En mi caso represento a Fundación CES. Y la publicación es sobre las habilidades socioemocionales en el mundo del trabajo. Básicamente lo que quisimos mostrar es la importancia de poder incluir a las habilidades socioemocionales en la formación para el mundo del trabajo, y sobre todo esto porque se ha detectado en investigaciones y en estudios que hemos relevado una brecha muy importante entre lo que la escuela enseña y lo que demandan las empresas en términos de habilidades. ¿Sí? No solamente habilidades técnicas, sino habilidades socioemocionales. Estamos pensando que, nosotros particularmente que trabajamos con jóvenes, y eso también fue un foco de interés, cómo impacta esta falta de habilidades socioemocionales a la hora de acceder y permanecer en un empleo, queríamos destacar un poco como este tema como importante a la hora de poder vincular la educación con el mundo del trabajo. Cuando me refiero a habilidades, estoy hablando de pensamiento crítico, de responsabilidad, de trabajo en equipo, la capacidad de resolver problemas, comunicarse de manera asertiva, la cooperación. Digo, todas estas habilidades que no forman parte de los contenidos curriculares de la educación media, ya sea de la educación secundaria, ya sea educación media o técnica, me parece que es algo que deberíamos prestar más atención. En esto la escuela y las empresas, en esa articulación que nosotros buscamos, tienen un rol muy importante. Esta publicación, y nosotros lo hicimos trayendo también la experiencia que hemos transitado del proyecto Noemí. El proyecto Noemí es un proyecto de 3 años que llevamos ya adelante, donde implementamos un sistema de articulación para vincular al mundo del trabajo con estudiantes de escuelas medias y técnicas, que tiene la particularidad de que se hacen prácticas educativas en ámbitos laborales, pueden ser empresas, organizaciones sociales, ámbitos laborales en términos generales, se fortalecen habilidades socioemocionales y se promueven también estrategias de inclusión educativa. Pensamos que las empresas pueden tener un rol muy activo en la formación y en la educación de adolescentes y jóvenes en este paso de la escuela al mundo del trabajo. Pero también pensamos que la inversión en habilidades socioemocionales por parte de las empresas puede beneficiar ampliamente a las empresas, ya sea en su propia productividad, en el desempeño laboral de los trabajadores y fundamentalmente en la posibilidad de una mejor cualificación. Esto para los jóvenes que ingresan a trabajar por primera vez es muy importante. Por eso nosotros, a través de este proyecto, buscamos la vinculación y buscamos que las empresas ofrezcan lugares donde los estudiantes puedan hacer sus prácticas. En términos generales, podríamos decir que este tema, si bien estamos pensando en la escuela y las empresas, básicamente estamos diciendo que este es un tema tan importante que las políticas públicas deberían poder incluir en sus diseños de políticas este tema como un tema importante. En especial con jóvenes que tienen menos oportunidades, porque en general son habilidades que en muchos casos se enseñan o se aprenden en la socialización primaria o secundaria, pero que aquellos jóvenes que de contextos más vulnerables, que no tienen familias que puedan acercarlos a ese tipo de habilidades, no cuentan con ellas, y a la hora de querer acceder a un empleo resulta mucho más difícil. Cierro la presentación, y muy tan breve, comentándoles que este tema, y en términos de las políticas públicas, tiene tal relevancia que se ha constituido una mesa regional para trabajar el conjunto de habilidades, donde ya se está trabajando en procesos de medición de estas habilidades y seminarios y cursos que atañen al tema. Muchas gracias.
Thank you so much, Jose Maria. I don't know if there is any questions or comments that somebody wants to participate or has any other questions? Because I know we have been extended a little bit, so I want to finalize. You know that for those of you who don't know me, I can speak for 3 days in a row, so just I want to finalize this the webinar now, if anybody else doesn't have any questions. So thank you very much for joining us, and we are open and free. You have my email and our contact details. We will be sending all the reports and all the information, but we are really open to any comments as well, and any ideas and feedback, because this is an open process, and we know that we all have to contribute for this, or for giving a final solution to this problem. Thank you so much for taking the time of joining. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.